Salt City Hoops live postcast, everybody. Welcome in. Hope you're all doing well on this fine Wednesday. You know who's not doing well is the Jazz defense. We get a loss today in Portland, losing 134 to 124 on the road against Portland. Obviously, the story of the day is going to be Damian Lillard dropping 60 points on Utah. And is it just me, or am I the only one who's kind of like desensitized to this a little bit? Like the idea of like a guard going off for 50, 60 plus against Utah. It just felt like, 60 points against Utah, that's happened before. And 60 is a little nuts. Utah's had a few 50 burgers against them, but I feel like I've just been desensitized this year to like, and I think probably over the past 3 or 4 years to players just going off against Utah, right? So obviously, Lillard goes for 60 today. This is only the third time in Jazz history that they've given up 60 points to a player. The most they've given up is George Gervin in 78 when we're still the New Orleans Jazz. And, of course, Kobe Bryant 60 points in his last game of his career. But the reason it feels so fresh is because this year we did get the fourth most is 59 to Joel Embiid this year. And then we had a couple years ago, Devin Booker. And it was just in 2017 that Damian Lillard drops 59 on Utah. And then we all remember Michael Redd's 57 in 2006. I actually do remember that quite well. I don't remember Harden's 56 in November of 2017. I do remember Ray Allen's 54 in 2007. I do remember Kemba Walker's 52 in January of 2016. Remember that shit? That was wild. Kobe had 52 in 2006. I definitely am too young for Joe Barry Carroll's 52. And then Damian Lillard 2 years ago having 51 points. So the Jazz have definitely given up plenty of recent 50-point games to players. And I just am sitting here thinking like, oh, this happens all the time. The Jazz give up 50-point games to players all the time. It doesn't happen as frequently as you thought. Now, I think the 40-point games are definitely way, way, way up there, and especially against talented all-star guards. Look, it was just no defense was possible today for Utah. No containment at the point of attack. And this wasn't just, Dame goes off for 60. They scored 134 points today. And if looking at just their shot profile today, the Portland shot nearly half of their shots today at the rim. It was a constant onslaught of players just getting to the rim and scoring baskets. And they didn't shoot particularly amazing at the rim, right? They're shooting 65% at the rim, which is okay, not great. But if you're constantly able to get to the rim over and over and over again, they were getting fouled quite a bit as well. That's just, there's nothing you can do there. And of course, in the second quarter, the Portland Trailblazers just started going off from three, and they weren't very contested either, right? So they ended up shooting 51.5% from three, and when it gets to be that high, it's like you just can't call it only shooting luck that a team shoots over 50% from three. A lot of it's open shots. A lot of it's Damian Lillard being Damian Lillard. So maybe the Jazz could have gotten closer, and the Portland's defense was also abysmal in a lot of ways, but the Jazz offense just couldn't keep up with them, including when Portland was trying to just throw the ball over the gym in the fourth quarter, and so they almost allowed Utah to get right back into it. So little frustrating on the defensive side, just allowing so many shots at the rim. And if we sent more players to contest at the rim and make it more difficult, Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard are just too good of ball handlers where they're going to find the open man in the perimeter for all those open threes. So, excuse my yawn. It's I'm about a third of the way through this 13.6% Belgian strong ale from Cerebral Brewing here in Colorado. But this is interesting. This is aged for 23 months in Sazerac rye whiskey barrels. And then a month, I haven't seen this before. They aged this beer for another month in orange and bitters. A barrel of orange and bitters. and then they condition over star anise and licorice. So you end up with this beer that I'm drinking an old fashioned, and it's a little off putting because I don't enjoy pints of old fashioned. Right? And so I have to sip it like a cocktail. I have to sip this very slowly and enjoy like the flavors of a good whiskey cocktail. This is a beer. So that's a heavy, strong one. I think a lot of reviews are like, "Oh, this tastes terrible. This isn't what I want to drink." Well, it's something that you shouldn't be like just chugging down like a stout or something. This is definitely more of a unique beer that I probably shouldn't be drinking the whole pint of. This is probably something I should be sharing with somebody else. So maybe I won't drink the whole thing. But it is tasty. It's all right. Probably not my favorite thing in the world. So the Jazz were also just kind of weirdly all over the place today from a performance, a plus-minus perspective. It's really hard to talk about what specific players that we can go into. Walker Kessler started out the game really well, defending Jusuf Nurkic, scoring over Jusuf Nurkic. I think those were the first 2 points of the game was he got the ball on a side pick and roll where Malik Beasley was the primary ball handler, and Kessler gets the ball kind of going to the rim, and he has a nice deft little floater range layup over the top of Jusuf Nurkic. It looked really pretty, really nice. But that was kind of the extent of like what he was able to do offensively. He did have a nice alley-oop dunk in the third quarter when Portland was just not playing any defense. But only 20 minutes today for Walker Kessler as opposed to the 25 minutes for Jared Vanderbilt, just because Walker Kessler was being played off the floor, and with Jusuf Nurkic also left early due to injury, so it was really just like, hey, the best way we're going to be able to contain Damian Lillard here, because Kessler was getting abused in the paint with fouls, and that Lillard drew a couple fouls in Kessler, is let's have Markkanen play the center role and have Vanderbilt just try to slow down the wings. So it just wasn't Kessler's best game. From that perspective, Jared Vanderbilt, it was one of those performances where you're like, I can see the outlines of a decent defender, but if he provided no resistance to the Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard kind of onslaught. I think there were a couple interesting plays in the fourth quarter where Portland got a little loose with the basketball. And so Jared Vanderbilt was able to make a couple nice plays. He did have 2 steals and 2 blocks. A nifty 2 of 4 from 3 today, and those were very clutch, important threes he made today. But I'm still just seeing the faintest figment outline of a decent defender in Jared Vanderbilt, not a guy that I'm like, all right, this is going to be the guy to help slow this shit down, right? It just wasn't going to happen today. Lauri Markkanen tweaked his knee in the second quarter, it looked like, but he did play 34 minutes at the end of the day. And one of the more positive plus-minuses on the team, he's a plus-minus of 2, while most other players on the team are finishing well into the negatives. I thought it was a weird coaching decision that Markkanen did not come into the... He played in the second quarter and then didn't come back. He got subbed out and didn't come back into the game until 100 seconds, about a minute and a half, left in the second quarter, and I really thought that was wasting Lauri Markkanen's ability to be the best player on the floor, and his final stats look okay from a scoring perspective. 24 points, 3 of 6 from 3, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, and I just feel like a few more minutes of Markkanen in the second quarter would have stemmed the bleeding a little bit, or at least kind of kept pace with the Blazers when the Blazers were going on a massive run. Blazers end up scoring, I think it's... how many points did they score in the second quarter there? Looking at the game charts here. They, of course, can't exactly tell how many points this. Where's my normal box score? I can't stand this stuff. I don't have the quarter-by-quarter box score, but I believe they scored 46 or 47 points in the second quarter. So I think Markkanen would have been a little bit more helpful there to help stem some of that bleeding. So he didn't play a ton of minutes today for what I thought we could actually have used a lot of what he could have provided. And I thought his defense was actually pretty horrible today. It was not a very effective not a very effective defender, especially when they were doing a switch and he got put on any of the ball handlers. Usually I'm the one who's espousing put your longer guys on a ball handler who is really abusing your bad guard defenders, and it just wasn't a effective day from anybody. So I can't blame him calling him out specifically, but it wasn't super great. Jordan Clarkson had 4 nasty turnovers today, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 18 points, team low minus 19, 7 of 18, 39% from the field. And the whole Jordan Clarkson's a distributor thing. Sarah Todd had a great article this week about his new role. Now he is kind of taking that role as a starter and as a facilitator, but his facilitation's gone way down. He is not playing that pure point type of attitude that was the beginning of the season when he was averaging just 16 or 17 points, but 5.5, 6 assists a game, and then that has gone down every month. His assists per game have gone down, and it's not like the Jazz offense has gotten worse, right? It's not like, everything's just kind of getting slowed down. No, his scoring has gone up every month as well. So now we're back to pretty much, if you look over the past 8 games, Jordan Clarkson's back to being just Jordan Clarkson, who we always kind of knew he was. So you're not really seeing a whole lot of difference with Jordan Clarkson versus prior years. He's just playing more minutes. I would like to see him kind of revert back to that secondary point guard role, especially because Colin Sexton is just not a natural distributor himself. So and we know when Mike Conley's not on the floor, Conley has 10 assists today. Mike Conley is the only point guard on this team, and I'm not expecting Clarkson or Sexton to become those sort of new players who are those great facilitators, but I thought Clarkson showed a little bit of verve on that front to start the year, and it's just completely gone now. Sexton hasn't really shown it all year except for fits and starts, but he showed it a couple years ago. I would like to see that. Sexton himself, 19 points, 8 of 11 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, right? So you're going to live with 3 turnovers with Mike Conley's 10 assists, but you get 3 turnovers to 2 assists for Colin Sexton, and it's a problem. You get 4 turnovers to 3 assists for Jordan Clarkson. That's a real problem, right? Thank God guys like Malik Beasley and Lauri Markkanen are such low turnover players, because we have a couple other primary ball handlers that are throwing the ball over the gym. Taylor Horton-Tucker plays the ostensible backup point guard role today. He plays nearly 14 minutes today, 5-9 from the field, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 5 fouls. He had a rough defensive patch in the second half. Had 1 nasty and 1 dunk. He's a capable backup point guard, but you can't rely on him to do anything. Nickeil Alexander-Walker did not get any minutes today as a backup point guard. So just kind of a whatever day as far as the offense is concerned. I think a lot of the offense goes 20 of 41 from 3. That's nearly 50%. Great shooting across the board from a lot of guys. I mentioned Lauri Markkanen's 3 of 6. You're disappointed in Malik Beasley's 3 of 9, but you're getting 1 3 out of Taylor Horton-Tucker. Excuse me. You get the 3 of 3 from Rudy Gay, who is actually probably Utah's, maybe his best performance of the season. He was solid defensively, good rebounder, had a nasty block at one point. And you get the 2 of 4 from Jared Vanderbilt. You get the 3 of 3 from Colin Sexton. A lot of the stuff was wide open. Portland is not a great defense. So Utah scoring 124 points was not a fluke. It just, you had to provide any sort of resistance whatsoever to have a chance in this game, and it wasn't going to happen. Take another sip of this beer here. It's weird that we just don't have a whole lot. I don't have a lot of notes and interesting things to talk about, because it's like, Damian Lillard scores 60. You end up with some weird situations, like Anthony Simons had a lucky 3 after some great 24-second defense. So it's like, even when the Jazz did have great defensive possessions, it would just be in the hands of a great scorer, right? And you end up with a very frustrating performance that way. I thought even against the poor Portland defense, you had a lot of aborted drives out of Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton, where they would beat their man off the dribble very easily. And unlike Portland, who Simons and Lillard were finding their guys immediately, they were finding the dump offs. They were having guys like Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant was fantastic today, always cutting. And the ball handlers for Portland were really finding those guys. Sexton and Clarkson, they were not finding players who were open, right? And occasionally you'd have Jared Vanderbilt being that cutter, and Vanderbilt would drop the ball. Or Vanderbilt would, there was one time where Vanderbilt gets the ball on a nice cut after a penetrating ball handler, I think it was Mike Conley, passes him the ball, and he does this amazing pump fake, gets 3 Portland guys in the air, and Vanderbilt goes up and he gets his shot blocked by a guy who's just kind of flailing his arms on the way down. So that should be, at a minimum, that should be a foul, right? And so there's a struggle with Jazz interior finishing, but also there was a we've seen this out of Jordan Clarkson for years, and if you've seen Colin Sexton, this is not a new problem for him either. But they will beat their man off the dribble, and if they decide like, hey, you know what, I'm not going to attempt to score this basketball, I'm going to look to pass. They think, right? And if you spend a second, half a second thinking about where the pass needs to go, that window's already closed. Right, we think about how tight the windows close in NFL quarterbacking. Right, when if the player is open, you just gotta let it rip and just be like that. That's where the play needs to go. And there's a lot of pick and roll ball handling, or just not even just pick and roll, but just straight up. If you beat your man and help is coming, or you don't like the position of the interior defender guarding the rim, you have to not pick up your dribble. You have to figure out a way to make a pass or try to draw a foul, or just dribble it out, kick it out, start the possession over. And we see way too often today that Sexton and Clarkson would get into the teeth of the defense, beating their hapless perimeter defender off the dribble because Portland is a bad defense. And then Drew Eubanks, who's a pretty solid rim protector, right? He would basically make them stop in their tracks. And Clarkson's good at the whole, I'm going to pick up my dribble and find a way to completely fake you out of your shoes and still score 2 points anyways. That's not really Colin Sexton's game, obviously. And so there's just a lack of distribution and thought, or instantaneous thought that's necessary out of those 2 ball handlers when they get into the paint. Saw a lot of that today. The Jazz could have put up 140 today. The Jazz could have survived this onslaught. They shot well from 3. I'm not expecting them to shoot better from 3. I'm expecting the turnovers to go down by a few. There were a few completely nonsense turnovers that happened today, and a little bit more minutes from Markkanen, and I think this is a Utah contested game. I thought like Baji only playing 12 minutes. I think that could have went up. But you're just not going to take minutes away from Clarkson, Conley, and Sexton's only playing 22 minutes, so you don't have a problem with that. And Malik Beasley's 30 minutes is kind of like, okay, what? I didn't feel like Beasley was providing something that really provided an extra oomph to this. Goes 3-9 from 3 today. Was weirdly a ball handler for a lot of the game today. Will Hardy's been rolling out this 4-guard lineup of Conley, Sexton, Clarkson, and Beasley. And Beasley was ending up with the ball in a lot of those situations, taking his larger defender off the dribble, whether it be Jeremy Grant or Josh Hart or something like that. And he ends up with 5 assists today. But I really struggled to see how that lineup was worth it. I'm going to take a look at the lineup data tomorrow to see how that 4-guard lineup has done over the past few games, because Hardy has rolled it out quite frequently. I didn't think it looked good today. I thought it was gross. I don't think it worked against a Portland defense that was trying to put out some size out there. You do have Jeremy Grant and Drew Eubanks out there. It's not like you're getting a whole lot of benefit out of it. And they were playing with Jared Vanderbilt and Walker Kessler in that sort of situation. If you're going to... I see the credibility to it if you have Walker Kessler being the man in the middle, right? Or if that 5th guy is a true stretch guy like Rudy Gay, right? If you're going to put Rudy Gay out there, who I understand is not like gangbusters from 3, but he's still a credible threat that defenses still attempt to guard, whereas Walker Kessler and Jared Vanderbilt, you leave them open. I don't love Jared Vanderbilt being the center in that situation, because I don't think Vanderbilt's adding you anything that Kessler wouldn't already be providing, and defensively it's just going to be a mess, right? Like, you can switch everything all you want to, but having 4 guard-sized players out there is just not a switchable defense that you can do. Malik Beasley as your 4 is not going to cut it. So interested to see the lineup data on the 4 guard lineups tomorrow. I do think Agbaji would have been nice to throw him in the fire a little bit defensively to see if he could have provided something. Obviously, he didn't initially. So it's weird that you go up against a 60-pointer and not have a whole lot to say, but Lillard's shooting the threes, right? He's drawing a bunch of fouls, interior contact. He goes 9 of 10 from the free throw line today, 9 of 15 from 3. He was making a lot of difficult ones, but he's making a lot of easy ones too. Sidestep step backs, but also he's just coming off of screens and shooting threes. Mike Conley went under a couple screens today and just let Lillard shoot from deep. I don't understand how that's a thing for the Jazz. It could be just, I don't know if it's a coaching point. I don't know if it's just like it's frankly it's easier to go under a screen, right? You could be tired, you just do it. I don't know. Portland also got as much as they could out of Lillard, Simons, and Grant today. Lillard playing 39 minutes, Simons 39 minutes, Jeremy Grant 42.5 minutes. They really try to put those guys in a position to beat the Jazz. Get the Trailblazers, the Blazers have been struggling recently. It's almost similar to that game that the Jazz had earlier in the season, where the Jazz played a 7-man rotation to get a win over the Clippers in like November or December to get off the pine. This was a must-win game for the Blazers, and they stretched their best players the best they could. Nurkic goes out early, Josh Hart goes out early, so you're getting 32 minutes out of Nasir Little, who had the team's best plus-minus for the Blazers. I thought he was great defensively. And Nasir Little, you don't usually see him shooting 2 of 4 from 3, but that kind of makes up for Simons going 2 of 8. And Simons missed a lot of wide open ones too. So I say the Jazz could have scored 140. I think the Blazers could have easily scored 150 in this game with some different shooting luck in certain things. It's very hard to like look at any advanced stats or anything and really take too much away from this, because it was really just really shit perimeter defense, really shit interior defense, just allowing Portland to just get to the rim as much as they wanted to. And even if they don't shoot a great percentage, if they're not threatened by your rim protection and they're just constantly onslaughting you at the rim, drawing fouls, that is going to be a winning strategy, especially when you go up against the fact that they're going to also shoot a bunch of threes. So disappointing loss. Happy to take any questions or comments for anyone in the chat or on our spaces here. But I'm going to probably check out the end of this Memphis Warriors game that is coming down to the wire. Warriors up by 2 with 1:14 left to play. They were down by 8 late. So interested to see how that one ends. Mavericks on Saturday. See if we can get back into the 500 column. The Jazz are 25-26 now. I was listening to a podcast today that highlighted pretty clearly that the Jazz are closer to like the 6th or 7th best lottery odds than you might think. So whoever the first tanker is in the West might get first dibs on some of that more prime real estate in the lottery. I don't think it's necessarily something we should cheer for and we should shut down guys for. But if it gets to the trade deadline and there are deals worth taking for Conley and Beasley, and we need to play Talen Horton-Tucker 38 minutes a game, then hey, all right, I'm all right with that being an after effect if you actually have a good trade to make. So we'll get into that probably this week, talking about trade deadline stuff, and next week I think for sure. Trade deadline's a little bit further away than you think. That's our postcast, I think. Blazers win 134-124. Damian Lillard goes for 60 points. It's the 3rd time in Jazz history they give up a 60-burger to a team. Damian Lillard has 3 of the top 12 scoring games against Utah in Utah's history, with a couple 50-burgers in there, and definitely a lot of 40-pointers. And now he caps it off with a 60-point game. It is the 2nd highest score against Utah in their history. The perimeter defense wasn't there. The interior defense wasn't there. And it wasn't just Lillard. It was all over the court. Was very sloppy, poor defense. And then Utah did their best offensively, but I think just couldn't hold the thread with a few untimely turnovers and not as great shooting as you need going against a 60-pointer from Damian Lillard. So we'll catch you into Memphis and the Warriors here. Love having you here for the Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. I'm going to finish off this 14% strong ale while we watch the rest of the basketball tonight. I'll see you guys Saturday night. Have a good night.